If you don't want to hear it in a school board meeting, why should children be able to check it out of the school system? You see, we have perverts that are perverting our kids. And you all sit back smug in your chairs and celebrate diversity, equity, and inclusion, but you don't want me to read.
Hello everyone out there, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. God bless you. From the title of this video, you can understand, I don't know how else to communicate the feelings, the pains of my heart, what the world is turning into. And unfortunately, America, the great USA, is championing the decadence and the demise of the world moral standard and, the culture of the people. It is so unfortunate that a city, a nation like America that prides herself as in trusting in God, as in believing in God, and that is their motto, is doing everything possible to negate the standard of the word of God, to kick against God, trying to indoctrinate kids early enough, to end, wickedness. Now, the Bible spoke about Babylon the Great, and before I came of age, I started hearing preachers likening America, that America is the modern day Babylon that shall go down. And when we look at certain things, the rise of China and the power of Russia and what have you, and how come the most powerful, nation on earth, the America, has done nothing actually to stop the killings in Ukraine, and the intimidation. They are beginning to feel intimidated by China. Then you begin to look at it that it is quite possible that America the Great is actually the biblical Babylonian that judgment was passed upon. I'd like you to look at this video. We are a Nigerian American pastor. He's a Nigerian, but he lives in America and probably was born in America. Amanchuku, Pastor Amanchuku, I went to the school board meeting and tried to read from a book that was made available for 10-year-old children. And you wouldn't believe what the board director did in that meeting. I'd like you to look at this, and eventually we'll look at subsequent other things as this video goes on. Now, this is very, very wicked, and my heart bleeds for this world.
You are welcome to the End Time Truth Television, the channel for the lovers of truth, for the truth of the end time. So if you are a lover of truth, give us a subscription, and God bless you. Shalom.
Long last name is Amanchuku. It means I know God, and I'm glad to say that I do. I'm here today to talk about this book here. My name is John Amanchuku, as I stated earlier. It's called It's Perfectly Normal for Students 10 and Up. This book details all kinds of sexual images, pictures of elderly people nude, pictures of an individual who's in a wheelchair with his penis out. All of these sexual pornographic images are made available and placed at the fingertips of children. And I'm sure, Dr. Cruz, I don't know if you knew about this before you signed on, but hopefully this is something that you can address and deal with, because this is immoral and asinine to allow children to be able to see this. Also, this book even shows images of two women having sex, a man and a woman having sex, and two men having sex. That's not perfectly normal. Who decides what's normal? Is it you? Is it you? Is it you? Is it you? Or do parents decide what should be placed at the fingertips and allowed to be taught to their children in the school system? I'll read some of this for you. It says, after a bit, a person's vagina becomes moist and slippery, and the clitoris becomes hard. After a bit, a person's penis becomes erect, stiff, and larger.
Pastor.
Sometimes a bit of clear fluid that may contain a few sperm comes out of the tip of the penis and makes it wet.
Can we, sir, I'm sorry.
Was it something I said? Was it something I said?
Reverend, thank you so much for being here. They did not let you talk about the book, but I will. What's in this book?
This book is for children
10 years of age and up. This book is not soft porn, it's hardcore porn. It details explicitly with pornographic images, homosexual sex, lesbian sex, straight sex. It promotes and glorifies masturbation while speaking against religions who may call that behavior a sin. This book is used as a tool to create what I call mental rape in the hearts and the minds of children. We are robbing kids of their innocence in America as we allow diversity, inclusion, and equity to dominate our schools. And so many of our librarians are bringing this kind of material into the public school system because they believe that children need to see themselves on the shelf. I don't believe that this is perfectly normal. I believe that this is perfectly perverted, and it needs to stop.
Great point.
Now, I'm happy that, a news media like Fox News, took interest in interviewing the pastor and allowing him to express himself and explain more what was in the book that he was shut down. Now, this goes, a long way to make you understand. Just like the guy was asking them in the board meeting, they wouldn't want him to read it, and that meeting was a meeting of adults. But then it is good for children to have access to it, to read it, to go through it. But then in a gathering of adults, he was shut down. He wasn't allowed to read it. Now, does that not show you that these people know what is good? They know morally, they know that this is not right. But because of whatsoever it is, they are just allowing the children that God has created in their innocence to be destroyed.
If you don't want to hear it in a school board meeting, why should children be able to check it out of the school system? You see, we have perverts that are perverting our kids. And you all sit back smug in your chairs and celebrate diversity, equity, and inclusion, but you don't want me to read it so you can hear it. Why? Does it bother you? Yes or no? You can't answer that question. You want to know why? Because politically speaking, you can't say that it's wrong. You probably are a Christian man, but many Christians today have become more Democrat than Christian. Some Republicans have become more Republican than Christian. I'm not trying to win an election. I don't get my talking points from the RNC or the DNC. I get my talking points from the Bible, from the Bible. And you don't want me to read the filth because it exposes the truth. How dare you tell me to stop reading it? If you don't want to hear it, why should the children have to see it?
Pastor, your time is up. Thank you.
That makes two of us.
Now, somebody like me will never ever stop. Why are children being targeted? Why is this campaign going this far? Why are children being indoctrinated at this early age? Why is it that suddenly the school system has stopped being a platform for learning, things that will enhance their values in life in future? Now, the school is becoming gradually, a center for indoctrination. And this indoctrination is not the traditional indoctrination that we know, religious indoctrination. I cannot really understand why, in spite of the fact that this man tried to offer what he thinks is the reason why these things are happening. I have my reservation.
Why? Why are we forcing a book like this on 10-year-olds?
Well, there's this issue of acceptance today. When it comes to inclusion, we have to make sure that everyone's welcome, everyone's invited. We have to make sure everyone feels good. And so along with that comes bringing in pornographic material to show kids about homosexual sex, lesbian sex, gay sex, transgenderism, and all of these things that come along with the alphabet mafia. And so I'm against these things because parents should talk about these things at home. If a parent wants to talk about masturbation and be explicit with their children and show them pornographic images, I don't advise it. I don't think it's something that they should do, but that should be something that takes place at home. But when we rob kids of their innocence, we're leading them down a slippery slope. This book is welcomed in the public school system. But if a teacher were to begin to talk from this book, the Bible, everyone would be up in arms.
I have my understanding. My understanding is that there is a campaign against the future. There is a campaign. You see, when you arrest these kids early enough and pollute their mind, indoctrinate them, they become they become more dangerous in the future. They become adherents that you find it difficult to talk them out of it. But there is a point that Pastor Amachuku made, and that is where almost everybody, Christians and pastors, people in general, are guilty of, and that is the issue of inclusivity, or what do they call it? Now, nobody wants to say anything. Let us include everybody. Let's carry everybody along.
Well, there's this issue of acceptance today. When it comes to inclusion, we have to make sure that everyone's welcome, everyone's invited. We have to make sure everyone feels good. And so along with that comes bringing in pornographic material to show kids about homosexual sex, lesbian sex, gay sex, transgenderism, and all of these things that come along with the alphabet mafia.
Exactly the point. Now, inclusivity is the reason why a president of America says that it is immoral for a man who says he's a woman to be denied access in a bathroom of females.
Mr. President, this is my 221st day of publicly transitioning.
God love it.
Thank you. I am extremely privileged to live in a state that allows me access to the resources I need, and that decision is just between me and my doctors. But many states have lawmakers that feel like they can involve themselves in this very personal process. Do you think states should have a right to ban gender-affirming health care?
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that, as a moral question and as a legal question. I just think it's wrong. I think I was saying before we started that my deceased son, used to be the Attorney General of the state of Delaware. He passed the broadest piece of legislation that he, as Attorney General, was able to convince the legislature and the governor to sign, that dealt with all gender-affirming capability. I mean, there's a lot of, sometimes they try to block you from being able to access certain medicines, being able to access certain procedures, and so on. None of that should be available. I mean, no state should be able to do that, in my view. So I feel very, very strongly that you should have every single solitary right, including use of your gender identity bathrooms in public.
Thank you.
Somebody who is a man and said he is identifying himself as a woman. Now, that it is immoral, American president saying this, that it is immoral for anybody to deny a man who is saying he's a woman access into a bathroom where only biologically certified women are. Now, what is happening? And just exactly like he said, now that book is allowed, is normal in the school. That book can fly anywhere. It can be placed anywhere. Nobody talks about it. No government official talks about it. Police don't say anything about it. Now, but if a Christian should pick up his Bible and oh my God, unfortunately, Bibles have been banned from schools in America. It's a nation that trusts in God, a nation that made God their foundation. This 12-year-old innocent boy didn't do anything. He didn't shoot anybody in the school. He didn't fight anybody in the school. He was not even in a physical confrontation with anybody. Just because he expressed himself, he had problem with the school authority.
For wearing a T-shirt, which teachers complained made some students feel unsafe.
I have been told that my shirt was targeting a protected class. Who is this protected class? Are their feelings more important than my rights? I don't complain when I see pride flags and diversity posters hung throughout the school. Do you know why? Because others have a right to their beliefs just as I do. Even at 12 years old, I have my own political opinions, and I have a right to express those opinions. Even at school, this right is called the First Amendment to the Constitution. I feel like these adults were telling me that it wasn't okay for me to have an opposing view. Their arguments were weak, in my opinion. I didn't go to school that day to hurt feelings or cause trouble. I have learned a lot from this experience. I learned that a lot of other students share my view. I learned that adults don't always do the right thing or make the right decisions.
The people who are into this, both the woke people, the gay people, the LGBTQ plus people, the transgenders, whatever they are. Now, they are in the minority, but you see that their policy is selling. Their policy is being pushed. Their agenda is widely, going viral. And they are becoming very, very, powerful, and they speak, their voice are being heard. Look at that. the school board wouldn't allow the pastor to read the same from the same book that the children were allowed to, to gain access to in a meeting where predominantly adults were there. Why would they not allow him to read from it, but the children could gain access to it? A Christian must not come and use the Bible in school to teach children in school, but that book is allowed. Now, does that not tell you that this is purely satanic agenda? This is purely an agenda from hell. Now, if you have a platform like mine, sometimes you're not even sure what you will get after uploading a video like this. And that's why I beg you guys, please give me subscription in my other channel. Give me subscription in my backup channel. The end is nearer. Formerly the end is nearer, but now Maranatha Television. The link to that channel is under this video. Now, you're not sure what would happen because, platform owners like YouTube, Facebook, even TikTok, would give you sanction. They can delete your channel just because you are trying to go against the norm, just because you're trying to go against what every other person is either going for or is silent about, because of inclusivity. Now, this pastor made a point. Everybody wants to be politically correct these days, and nobody is thinking about what God is saying. Now, but this is where Christians and Christianity have been challenged. We've been called to action. Nobody should sit on the fence.
This isn't just happening in Asheville, North Carolina, where you spoke. Parents are fighting back against this at schools throughout the nation. We reached out to a number of them. Some wrote back. The Bonnie Eagle School District in Maine, they have this book. They had no comment. Asheville Board of Education, where you spoke, says parents have a right under federal law to inspect all instructional and supplementary materials as part of any applicable federally funded programs. And the Waldorf School in Long Island telling us, quote, the book in question is an optional supplementary resource for parents that has never been used in the classroom. Reverend, is it safe to say that parents cannot let their guard down for 1 second when it comes to what is being taught in their kids' schools?
No, but parents, you can't let your guard down for 1 second. There are sexually evil and corrupt and deviant, perverted people who believe that this is okay. And so this is how it works. They bring the pornography into the school system. They bring in these gender theory and queer theory books. And if parents don't know it's there, it remains there. And then when parents are told that it's there, then the parents have to go through 10-step processes to get the books removed. This is sinister. It's criminal. It's child abuse. And so I'm going to school boards around the country. If you want to support my efforts, you can go to Erased Book. That's ERACED book.com and support the work that I'm doing nationally. We need pastors. We need the church to rise up and to speak up against this evil that's been done to our children. And we need men in particular in the culture to be bold and to be courageous. Stop being neutered and use your voice to defend our families and our children.
Now, do not think that there is no consequence. There are a lot of consequences.
Listen, we are in a bad place in America. America is spiraling downward, and it's time to storm the cockpit. As we talk about gender theory and queer theory, and we turn these schools woke, our children are underperforming. Our students aren't reading on grade level. They're not doing math on grade level. Our achievement rates are down. It's time to get back to education and not indoctrination.
Every action has got its consequences. The truth is that when the devil is at work, when a nation has sold, itself under the devil, when you have bad leadership, when you have bad leaders, because it is the leadership, it is the kind of persons you have in power that actually determines the direction of a nation, the direction of the country that they are leading. If you have bad people in governance, now what they will project is evil. If you have Satanists in government, of course, they will push the agenda of Satan. Now, when you have them in sensitive positions of power, like in the Supreme Court, they are the justices there that determines what happens. People go to court, bring things to court, yet it is still them that will come out to give judgment. Then what do you have? Now, that is why we come back to the fact that this world is lying in wickedness. The whole world is lying in wickedness. Darkness indeed is covering the people. Now, but the people of God shall arise, because light, the Bible says that gross darkness shall cover the people. But the light of the Lord shall arise upon us. We shall arise and shine. And that is why the Bible says we shall arise and shine. It is no longer time for us to sleep.
We need pastors. We need the church to rise up and to speak up against this evil that's been done to our children. And we need men in particular in the culture to be bold and to be courageous. Stop being neutered and use your voice to defend our families and our children.
Now, the most unfortunate thing is that majority of these persons could be Christians.
You can't say that it's wrong. You probably are a Christian man. But many Christians today have become more Democrat than Christian. Some Republicans have become more Republican than Christian. I'm not trying to win an election. I don't get my talking points from the RNC or the DNC. I get my talking points from the Bible, from the Bible.
So I am making a clarion call. I am pleading. Now it is no longer time. It is not uhuru as usual. It should not be business as usual. It shouldn't just be a time where pastors recline in their office chairs and stand on the pulpit to talk about just money and offering and tithe, and then they are afraid to tell the powers the truth to their face. This is the time that the light of the gospel must shine. This is the time that parents should rise up and take the destinies of their children in their hands. If anybody keeps quiet, if you keep quiet, you think it doesn't concern you. I want you to understand. I know a very lovely family. The man happens to be one of the persons that brought gospel of Jesus Christ to their community, and unfortunately, he has two precious daughters that have been indoctrinated, and two of them, had veered off the norms, and they are in these ways. And you don't know the heartache of a parent that does not believe in this thing. You don't know the heartache of parents that gave birth to sons and daughters, and suddenly, along the line, the children are saying different things. Father and mother came together to give birth to them, and suddenly, the girl says, she's gonna get married to a girl of her type, and a boy says, I'm gonna get married to a boy of my type. You don't know the pain. And so it is not time to sit on the fence. Everybody should rise to speak. Pastors should speak. It is not time to say God is not clear on it. The word of God is clear. The word of God is sound. God has not, been ambiguous about this. The Bible, clearly states about this. I'm so proud about, of Pastor Amanchukwu. He boldly told them he was not speaking from any form of book, but he was speaking from the Bible, the Bible. Now, the problem we have today is that religious leaders, pastors, people who should talk want to be politically correct. They want to be politically acceptable, people who believe in whichever party, whatever government that is in power, and the policy that they are pushing out there, that they want to support it, even when they know, because that school board knew. They knew that the contents in that book was wrong, but then to them it is normal and acceptable for children to gain access to it, but they couldn't bear to listen to the contents of the same book they allowed children access to. Well, anyway, let me know what you think about the video. I'll be seeing you in the next video. With a broken heart, I submit that the world is rushing down the slope and America is leading the charge. But we can turn the tide. We are the light of the world. I'll be seeing you in the next video. Till then, from me to you. Shalom.